Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about, or have you tried sensory deprivation tank?
Yep, for one.
It's something I
It's
would
like
like
a
to experience.
floating something. It was just 1 hour. I think 1 hour is not enough for me. Or maybe, I don't know. I think a lot of the experience really depends on your mindset and your setting, all those things. Because sometimes the experiences, they can be very powerful, but if you've been thinking about some things and reading things, well, at least in my case, that is. And sometimes even whatever you do with yourself, even if you're not in that mood, you're not on that wavelength, I think the experience is going to be rather ordinary. Maybe I wasn't on that vibe with the floating thing, but yeah,
Yeah, you
definitely.
probably yeah.
Yeah, you have to be ready, I think, and you know step into the experience with questions. They always also, the experienced people in Darknet who discuss these experiences and things, they always say, like, before you step into something, be responsible and really choose the topic that you want to learn more about, specifically about the psilocybin, like, and psychedelic experiences. They always say there's a when a strain is actually called golden teacher, because it actually teaches you something. That's why you always have to be responsible and choose some specific and relevant spiritual issue that you have. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Mm. I was also interested in if anyone here had an experience with ayahuasca
Not me,
or
not yet.
similar stuff
Yeah,
to that.
yeah. I did
Oh, cool.
a year and a half of ayahuasca. I worked
Continuously?
with
Wow,
shamans. Yeah.
pretty cool.
Well, I did 33 ceremonies over 15 months, and so I worked closely in with shamans and in that space.
Hmm.
So yeah, I had a lot of experience in that, and it's very powerful. It's very intense, and it's you know um, it's a very strong experience.
Hmm.
But I would also say that it's not for everyone,
Sure.
and that it's a tool. It's a tool, but it's not for everyone. And now I don't do any plant medicines at all, because of the path that I've chosen. But I'd also say be very careful who holds the space.
Hmm.
You've got to make sure you've got someone very experienced who holds the space. And a lot of people are just doing it now, and they've got no idea how these energies
That's
work.
the
And
biggest
you literally,
problem.
when you
Hmm.
take it, you are in this space, and there are beings in front of you. There are, you're completely in that space,
Yeah.
and it's a bit like going into this,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
and the energies are so strong,
Hmm.
and it is a healing space, so it's bringing up your trauma. It's bringing up your trauma to be healed, and if you're not held correctly, it can be detrimental. So yeah, I would be very careful about stepping into that. Same with psilocybin as well. Unless the space is held correctly and is respected. And even then, I wouldn't go into plant medicines now, because you are going through the consciousness of the plant. You're not going through your own consciousness as much. Yeah, but you don't know until you do it, and then you realize that. So yeah, I would think twice. Definitely think twice, or maybe 3 times before you do ayahuasca.
Many times, I would say, because you have to be very careful with these experiences, because first of all, people sometimes people don't even know the dosages, which is ridiculous to me. Like, this is so important.
Yeah.
Like, when you go into it, just find out more about this stuff. But people are not always responsible about it. Secondly, you never know what background do you have. Like, some people have predisposition to psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia, and this could cause the actual psychotic break, and you can,
Yeah, it
you
could be a
may,
trigger.
yeah, you may become somebody. You have, there's no way back. You're not going to be
So
the same
in
after that moment.
indigenous
Hmm.
cultures,
Hmm.
psychotic breaks are revered. They look at people having psychotic breaks. It's a breakthrough. It's great.
Hmm.
And in this society, especially here in England, it's kind of, give you some antipsychotic drugs, and it's not
Hmm.
understood. But when you understand it from a spiritual perspective, it's a different context.
I agree, but at the same time, I think the categories, you should be very careful with numbers as well, because sometimes, even with
Hmm.
Stanislav Grof, you have to be able to diagnose the difference, because sometimes some people, they have spiritual crisis, and they may, be strange, and they may behave strangely, like shamanic experiences and things. But sometimes people have genetic predisposition to these things. Like schizophrenia is actually in your genes, and people even have specific smells because of that. Because the gene also causes them to have a very specific smell of their body, which is and I think that's a very that's a different box of experiences. So the manifestation could be the same, but the same manifestation could be from two different categories, like a psychotic break, a pathological process, or a spiritual, crisis that a person should go over and go through. I think. Still, very, very interesting.
Can I quickly just add, any drugs, not just mushrooms or ayahuasca, any drugs, make sure you got someone you trust to have your back with you. It's not smart to do them, especially if it's the first time. Don't play where you're not sure of how you're going to deal.
Definitely, like 100%. But also, hold on a second. Wow.
I've been in the fire service for 25 years, and unfortunately PTSD comes with that, and all the Western medicine I found wasn't working and just drove me up the wall because I was losing words and stuff like that when I was on it, and just everything else. So I went to Mexico, and I was fortunate my wife and sister-in-law were there before, so they did some research in terms of who to trust there and that sort of thing, and you're bang on. You have to have someone who holds the space properly and everything else, because and you also have to go in with the proper intent, because if you're taking it just to get messed up, then all you're going to do is get messed up. But if you go in with the right intent and everything else, you're going to get what you need and find what you need. I can tell you, the day I went to the first ceremony, I went to 2 ceremonies, so 2 days in a row. And the first day I wandered into space somewhere and spoke to, it could have been God, an alien, I'm not sure what it was, but basically told me let it go and that sort of thing. And I could see the cogs of a clock and everything else kind of wandering away. And then the second day, it's really hard work. Like, there's nothing easy about it. It's very, very hard. But I can tell you I was a 3 out of 10 going in there. And by the end of those 2 days, with the proper person guiding me and everything else, I have ever since, and it's been about a year and a half, ever since I've been about a 9 out of 10 on a daily basis. It just totally changed my perspective, looking at things that everything is really an illusion. So, except for right this very second, because if anything in our past, if we're looking back at that and it's causing us trauma of any sort, all it is a movie that's playing in our mind, and it's actually not real. Memories. Same thing as we look forward and get stressed over the future. It's actually not real. We're projecting that, and so the only thing that is real is right here, right now, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
From a physiological sense, there's an amazing therapist called Peter Levine. And he works with a lot of people with post-traumatic stress, and he shows how it's trapped in our body in certain moments. Our body freezes, and that goes into our neurology as well. So that's from the physiology side. From the spiritual side, from the work that I do, it's trapped in your energy system that we're not normally receiving. So when you go into these altered states, you can access these energy systems and you can recode that information. There's lots of different aspects to it.
When I take psilocybin, I end up almost going in tongues. I speak an entirely different language. It's so strange, the experience.
It'll be light language. It's called light language.
Yeah.
So that's the universal language that we all have different languages, but there's different dialects. So that'll be your soul's language, which is light language.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, PTSD actually is in the list of diseases with major depressive disorder that has very good, I think now in research they have very good science on that. Like, I think a lot of people are going to receive these special treatments for PTSD with, well, including psychedelics as well.
Yeah, of course.
And MDMA, it's really good.
MDMA, DMT, some new wave of that.
Yeah, there's work
MDMA
being
is
done
really
in
good for that,
Stanford
actually. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah.
Sorry for interruption.
yeah.
Paul.
Huh?
Paul.
Okay. Yeah, there's work being done at Stanford and John Hopkins, and there's also an article published in The Lancet, which is a leading British medical journal, about the use of, I think it was MDMA, or it could have been psilocybin, in post-traumatic stress disorder in conjunction with counselling. You know, you just have two sessions. And I think it was done in Vietnam veterans who'd treatment resistant to PTSD in Vietnam veterans, and just with two treatments with, I think it's psilocybin, it could be wrong, anyway, it's something similar, in conjunction with integrated counselling, they had a very significant result, 60% success rate.
Yeah, I think I heard about that
Treatment-resistant
too.
Vietnam veterans with PTSD. I think it's a Lancet article. I reference.
I heard about MDMA actually, not heard, I read about it in Shulgin's book. Actually, a guy who created, well, he wasn't an actual creator, he was like the foster father of MDMA, which is ecstasy. And it's not a real psychedelic, but it has a huge potential in therapy because it gives you like this safe space where you have like, not euphoria, but like a positive emotional state that brings this, safe space for overcoming trauma. I read some, stories from the book, what exactly they did, and some different therapists at that time in California, they used it, I guess secretly. But still, I think it has a huge potential because with psilocybin, DMT, and other substances, they still have a powerful psychedelic element to them. Whereas MDMA is not a real psychedelic; it's actually a different type of effect, and it could be very good. It's of course
very good.
Only
Very
combined.
good in scene. Yeah, it's scene and setting again, very much scene and setting, and
Yeah,
it can be a
with
very spiritual
psychotherapy.
experience.
Yeah, with psychotherapy, that's a
Yeah.
great combination because you have this safe space in psychotherapy room, and combined with these, you could lift up. I think they used it, if I'm not mistaken, they used the protocols for people who are very introverted and they feel unsafe even with a psychotherapist, and they can't lift up this barriers that they have. So this is one of the methods, like additional methods that, of course, was coordinated with the person. It was not given to them secretly. Yeah, it really, like a couple of stories were very curious how they overcame their fears. And there was a guy who had like leg problems. Like I always like to read actual examples of these sessions. Okay, I don't want to take too much of that space. Just interesting. PTSD, it's just curious. It's always mentioned in these new papers that I read about psychedelic and especially new ways of treating it. Not only psychedelics, but also like mostly it's therapy. And major depressive disorder and PTSD is like top on the list, and alcoholism.
Yeah, addictions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think
I just-
integration
thanks,
is really
Karen,
important.
Nice seeing you all again. I'm out. See you guys later.
Oh yeah, thanks for
guys,
coming.
as always.
Yeah, thanks for
Great.
coming. I like your hairstyle.
Thank you. Yep. Starting a whole club, yeah.
Yeah, see you next Saturday. Remember
See you
about
there.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Go ahead, Kadia.
Yeah, I just wanted to share. I think integration is really important as well with regards to working with plant medicines or MDMA. And I think there's a really powerful thing we have called intention. So it's always important to have intention. And another thing, discernment. So much information, we can get overloaded with the mind, and we have a heart intelligence, and our body's very intelligent. And I feel like we're at a stage now where beyond the age of information, it's about tuning into our own level of intelligence that we have within our body. So once we can really tune into ourselves, when we have all this information, it's like, okay, what's right for me? Your body is so intelligent. When we start to practice to be in our bodies more and more, you have this relationship and communication with it more and more. That's what I'm learning on my path. When we get this kind of, someone was mentioning about ayahuasca and, you know, wanting some advice, it's just tuning in. At the end of the day, we always go out, and then if we really tune in, we really can tune into what we really want and need. And again, it's doing your research. And they say ayahuasca means vine of the soul, and shamans say it's the calling. So I always believe that rather than going out looking for it, and you feel this pull, just allow the universe to align the right. If you do work that way, the right people and the right team that you're meant to sit with will flow. It will flow just in time, and that's it. We live in the third dimensional reality, which is time. So you might set the intention now, but you might not sit until next year. And are you okay with that? Are you okay to trust that process? That's what we all need to sit with sometimes. Discernment and intention, and especially when we do this deep work, the integration is very, very important. I've been working in ayahuasca ceremonies for 5.5 years. I'm a space holder, so I've experienced and seen a lot. And what I've got to say is the integration, regardless whether it's plant medicine or the MDMA, it's the after. So yes, you can go into a retreat and you can do the, you know, have the healing and the space, but you are going to go home at some point. So it's super important that the people that are holding the space have the tools and a support bubble, like a WhatsApp group or something, just to keep that, you know, so people have that support when they come out of the retreats or therapy centers. But yeah, I just wanted to share.
I love that you mentioned that, because I keep talking about psychedelics, and I want to always I have to mention that this is one of the tools, like one of 10 maybe, or 20. It could be psychotherapy, it could be ayahuasca, it could be meditation, it could be like lucid dreaming. I'm not sure if that's good. Whatever works. I think for people, it is important for every person to choose something and practice something that is they're comfortable with, and to be, as you said, like to take your time and really integrate and be whole in this process, and you know,
and not getting caught up in the hype, because there's always this, like the spiritual Olympics, or there's like this bandwagon where everyone gets on, you know, oh, have you heard everyone's doing this now? It's just being really mindful of that and knowing what's right for you. You know, I think that's super important in this day and age. Because there's always a lot of hype with certain medicines or theories, and it's just
true.
It's too busy following crowds, and it's just discernment, and that's what's coming through for me at the minute a lot.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because whenever they talk about the meditation practice research, they brought the monks from Tibet, and they actually call them people with Olympic experience of meditation or something, over some 50,000 hours or something like that. I'm like, it's funny that they use that word for that. Okay, sorry, I didn't pay too much attention to the...
Maybe they consider themselves a specialist. Hey. It's like you just don't go to anybody. Like if I go for my mental health, I go to see a psychiatrist, or I go to see a social worker, nutritionist when it comes to health. I forgot what I'm on the mic. I said, what I'm thinking of, they probably thinking of that they're the specialist. And that's what you should go to if you want to do anything. You just can't take much word of mouth from somebody else. You have to go to like a nutritionist for your food, and like me, I became a vegan, and the first thing a nutritionist told me is it's gonna be a lot of work, because you're gonna have to find your minerals, your iron, your fiber, and especially your protein. They was giving me the breakdown. They gave me papers, and they helped me out with things to try out and stuff like that. And what psychiatry does is help me with anything else besides he's giving me the medications and stuff like that, and other stuff. Like even if I go out and I talk to somebody tell me this, and try that, and this might work for you, it might not work for me. It might do some harm. It might do some damage or whatever. Like if I'm a person suffering with phobia and have all these anxieties, it's very hard to just go in there and try to force somebody to do something that they can't do. It just doesn't work. Like that's why you always be a professional before you do it.
Yeah, awareness is a very important point. I think that it's a nice word. like knowing more about yourself, about the world around. Paul, let me give you a microphone. I think you do not have it.
I think awareness is important. I think you also have to bear in mind when you go to your doctor and ask them about certain things, they might not necessarily know what you're talking about. You know, for instance, like years ago, I started taking CBD.
About.
Years ago I started taking
doctors
CBD,
know
and I said to my
doctor knows things, but they just don't know what you're talking about. Certain times when you go to talk to them, you got to actually try your best to explain it, and what they turn around and go, well, I'm going to send you to the specialist because that way they can find out, and then we can find a resolution or whatever to fix your issues, any issues you have. I think it's all the same, you know.
I think you have an issue in America with the way the medicine industry works as well. Certain doctors will only really be thinking about how much money they can make from you. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to it comes to like psychology and like giving you drugs in order to fix your mind, as they would say. You know, it's kind of like
yeah.
America does seem to have a particular problem.
My doctor will always tell me about my medications because that's the first thing I ask her, the effects of this medication, and she was like, well, this is kind of addictive, so you have to be careful with it. So, you know, certain things, they go in there, especially the psychiatrists with, well, I know you don't want to keep taking drugs just every time something, you know, have this anxiety. She said you're going to have to try to do some meditation, some breathing exercises, stuff like that. You know, because keep on medication to make you feel good, it kind of messes you up. It really does. And it just covers the problems you have. But
that's why MDMA worries me as well, because I've known several people that, you know, got into the MDMA in the 90s, you know, rave culture and stuff like that. And really mess with their emotions, man. Like those people are quite emotionally.
It's the setting again, isn't it? I think.
Going recreational is not the way it's at.
Yep.
Going into a loving, caring environment.
Safe.
Yeah, but
unless you have a real purpose of having
any drug,
that's a different story.
Yeah, but any drug that affects your emotions on that level, I don't think can ever be a positive. Like obviously, if you've got doctors looking at your mind while you're in a certain state and telling you your chemistry's like this, and therefore if you take these chemicals that will change your chemistry, all they're doing is seeing what your chemistry looks like through the guise of how you're feeling. That's what your chemistry is. It's like your thoughts and emotions creating chemistry. Like by taking drugs in order to fix that, it's never going to help, really. Like all it's going to do is like let you realize what it feels like in that mode that you want to be in, as opposed to actually being in that mode.
It's up to a certain degree. I mean, everybody
you can take a drug.
Oh yeah, this. Go ahead.
If you can take a drug like MDMA, when people are in absolute, you know, I'm sure there's myself included and a few other people in here have really experienced trauma where you just want to end it, and if you can take something like MDMA that will take you out of that pain, take you out of that trauma, even temporarily, it gives insight into your brain to go, you know what, there's hope. I can do this. And it puts you into a more resourceful state. Yeah, more resourceful state to deal with it.
Different way to
but it's not real.
Different perceptive way to be.
When you're talking about what you said was that you trust that more than ayahuasca and like psychedelics, but what I'm saying is MDMA is something that changes your emotion. Ayahuasca is something that breaks down your ego. Like there's a complete separation there. Like if you're you're saying is both correct, of them, like it makes you
change your frequency.
Makes you realize, but the MDMA makes you realize what it's like to be in that emotion, but it's also a fake version of that. What ayahuasca is doing is breaking down your emotion, breaking down your ego.
Well, both of them change your chemical. Both of them change your mental, your neurology. It activates that psilocybin, lights up your brain completely. So does ayahuasca. So does MDMA. That'll have an amazing effect. So it'll activate areas of your brain that you wouldn't normally have access to when you're in this depressive, traumatic state. Therefore, can make different neurological connections and help to heal. That's the use of them when they're used in the right context.
Yeah, they can give you
scans, haven't they? You can see scans if you look it up on the internet. It will show you your brain, your neural functions, like when normally, and then it will show you it if you have psilocybin, and it's just firing everywhere. And they say it's normal. Well, you must have seen it on the telly, like they say it's like putting a fresh blanket of snow over your mind.
Yeah, I can put it right now.
From A to Z constantly, you don't take the same thought process every time, sort of thing. It gives you a chance to.
But that's exactly my point. The doctors tell you when they look at your brain chemistry, this is what it's doing, and if we give you this, it will affect it in this way, and then we can change your brain chemistry. But your brain chemistry can be changed through thought, through meditation, through yoga. You don't need to fucking take drugs, you know what I mean? It's like, I just think, MDMA especially, I would run a mile from it. I've got people in my family that are messed up through MDMA, and I know you're saying like, oh, you shouldn't take it like this way and that way, but just taking something in order to light up a certain portion of your brain so you know what it feels like to be happy, I don't think that is helpful. I think if you want to get to that place, then you should trust your journey to get to that place, as opposed to like going, oh, I know how it feels like to be happy now, like let me try and. I don't think that helps. I think that's a big negative.
Well, yeah, that's why we see
in extreme circumstances when somebody's in terrible trauma. I had a girlfriend who was manic depressive. She was sectioned, and she was a danger to herself, and they had to give her lithium. Otherwise, she wouldn't have survived. It's horrible to see, but lithium saved her life. And it's same with MDMA. I don't think everyone should be taking it recreationally. I think in extreme circumstances. Same with ayahuasca, like everything else, extreme circumstances, it's worth looking at. It's not the answer. I don't do any of that now, and I think my way is through meditation and through healing and through other modalities, which I think you're right. That's the way forward. But if somebody's in a massive trauma and post-traumatic stress,
major depressive disorder, PTSD, they don't have enough resources to do these things because they lost their balance a lot. And I think that this is for severe cases, and also. When you are in such a severe situation, I think your bets are different. Like you are willing to risk this and to have some hope, for better. Paul, I also give you the microphone too.
Yeah, I'd just like to recommend a book, Waking Up by Sam Harris, which talks about psychedelics and meditation and also doing the reality of what the situation actually is. Bit concerned about hallucinogenics, to be honest.
Waking up?
Waking Up by Sam Harris. Yeah, Waking Up, Sam Harris. Quite a good book. Yeah.
Have we all read The Power of Now? Yeah. That's that book is Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle, yeah.
Yeah, that's a must, man. It's an incredible book.
No, can you message it so I can message to everybody else?
Power of Now.
Message.
Sure.
Times where I was feeling good and feeling great and stuff, and then it gets, after a couple of hours, the drop, all of a sudden now I don't feel so great and all this stuff. I have to deal with this 24/7. It's a battle every damn day, especially when it comes to mental, physical, and other stuff. When somebody has a mental and a physical thing, it's a real problem to tell them, oh yeah, you need to do this and you need to do that. Some things just don't work for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very important the point where you at. Like sometimes if you're underwater, it's very difficult to say, hey, just breathe. You have to float to the surface, to the neutral level, and that's where you can start using other tools as well. So yeah.
Talking works for me. Relaxing, meditation. I try to not, be so negative and stuff, but sometimes it just happens.
Yeah.
You're not feeling good. It's always, even though the look on their face is always seem negative, but they don't. Some people don't understand that.
Oh wow, I have a lot of hand raises. I'm sorry, guys. Madiha, Sparkles, Paul, Mike, and Rahman. Rahman, I'm still waiting for your recommendations. Send me messages so I can send to the group. You can always go back to the website and find the recommendations whenever you have a free day. Madiha, would you still want to say something? Because I think it's been like a long... Komitsu, anybody? Sparkles, do you have a microphone? There you go.
Oh yeah, I do. I was just going to say,
Mike?
I know. Oh, he's gone. I know he's saying that like he doesn't suggest doing ayahuasca and the I don't know, sorry, I don't know. And he has a lot of experience in it. I don't. All I know is a couple of years ago I was in Mexico and I had the Cambo, you know, the frog stuff. I did with, and then Changa, and I felt like when I mean Changa, you know, is the DMT. For me, it was like it lifted a grey cloud from above my head. And when I came back, I couldn't believe the difference I felt doing that, because it was like such a lovely, positive experience. It was total, pure, like love and joy. The whole experience was just like, and it's, you know, it's very short. It lasts a very short amount of time. But the difference when I came back, and I started doing mushrooms when I came back after that, like slowly doing them, and mainly the golden teachers that you were talking about, just because it was eye-opening. It was something I would sit in the garden and I would just, you know, and it's like you start to, for me, it was like I was starting to experience the world in its entirety rather than just my insular part of it, you know. It's not everything, but you know what I mean, like the trees, the plants, the ground, the air, the you know, all of that sort of thing. And it was so eye-opening. I've been doing them ever since, like I do them every so often. But I think it's important, like you were saying, it's set and setting, like they always say. It's very important. I wouldn't go out partying, taking them and go partying.
No.
But I really do believe they're a medicine. You know, and that's how I look at all of like those sort of things. That's the sort of thing. I mean, I've tried other stuff, but I don't. But I really do look at that as medicine. And I think it's just that's the way things are going now. I think that's more of a. I think there's so much more to, like the doctors that we were talking about. I mean, we've had experience. A lot of us have had experience with antidepressants and things like that. But you can walk into the doctors and you're guaranteed to get whatever. Medicine last rep touted, and we've had experience of that where we've walked in, a rep's come out, we've gone in and said, it wasn't me, it was my husband, went and said, oh, you know, but I don't want these, I don't want ones that, you know, affect your weight, I don't want this. Oh no, this doesn't do that. He gave him the tablets that the rep had, and then I don't know, a couple of months later he started putting on weight because of them, went back and the doctor went, oh yeah, they do that. We're like, well, that's exactly what we no, so it really, I mean, it's a business. I think there are now a few doctors that are really good and really want to help people, and there are a whole shitload of doctors who want to make a ton of money. I live in Canada, so I mean, it's, but it's, you know.
There's also private doctors, so yeah, America does seem to have a bit of a problem if you're in it for the money, which does seem to be a bit of a problem, particularly in the United States. But yeah,
good point. Yeah,
I was stunned like when I moved to New York and I saw the adverts on TV, and they're just all for these things that are telling you need in order to be better, and like giving you like, diagnosis over the TV and stuff. I was like, wow, what's this like? As somebody who's from the UK, like seeing that was shocking, like shocking.
Yeah, the medical system in America is like a mafia, pharmaceutical.
Yeah, and they're trying to tell the society as a whole that if you want universal healthcare, that's socialism and it's going to be the end of your country.
Oh, these freaking communists! It's all communistic idea. It's so strange. Why would
Kingdom? It's not socialist medicine.
Yeah.
Because you've also got the system in the United Kingdom where you can have private medicine, so you can have your socialist medicine. And you can have your private medicine. What more can you ask? You know, if you can afford private medicine.
It's like saying the fire department socialism. You know, like so they're
like the army.
Your house is burning down. You need help. Like
It's really ridiculous
There
how
to work out
Americans.
certain-
Yeah, it's really ridiculous how in America communism is still demonized to use it as a an outside outside enemy. Communism is bad. Okay.
Even socialism is demonized in America. That's
strange. Yeah. Okay. Ron,
I find it strange when
I always think that the pharmaceutical company is. I always think that the pharmaceutical company is the biggest drug dealer of all time.
That's why it's called the drugstore. They don't even hide it.
Saved us from the virus.
Yeah, how do you
They
go
saved us
in?
from the
How you go
virus.
into a pharmacy and you get 40 pills and they want $400? Come on, man! This ain't kidding me.
Welcome to America.
Money for, yeah. So
Yeah, but let's face the other side of it. They've saved us from the virus, haven't they? With Pfizer and AstraZeneca.
Who knows who created it in the first place?
Yeah, with the tax dollars, you pay like so much money come out of your check and you done pay for it, and then when you want it, you can't even get it for free. They want to charge your arm and a leg. Rip off your head and shit.
I highly recommend everyone check out the GoodRx app. Just even if you have insurance.
Yeah, I seen
you
the
can get it
RX.
cheaper.
Guys.
It's the one thing of all drugs is always has some effect. Like he said, on the TV commercials they come on, you take this, and you're gonna have diarrhea. So what the hell I want that for? It's gonna cause something else to fuck me up.
You know what you do?
I got dry mouth.
Yeah.
Might cause death. I'm like, I don't want that shit now.
I've got some helpful information about antidepressants.
Taking raw egg.
And the book I recommended.
Yeah, I'll learn.
Make it as brief or as long as you want, but or short as long as you want. But I mean, I'll touch base on antidepressants real quick. It's not a real science. It's guesswork. And whenever the doctor prescribes an antidepressant, there's no rhyme or reason why they chose that particular one. And they have rules are they have to start you out at the lowest dose for about a month, and then they can slowly increase it, and based on your feedback, they decide whether or not to change you to a different one at another random guess, or add another random guess. They know exactly what each one does in your brain, but they don't know how it correlates to how you feel or if it will help you.
Individual reactions.
But
Very
that
good
aside,
book.
let me say one more quick thing about the book, Feeling Good. In the beginning, it was published the year I was born, 1980. So I kind of liked when I heard that. I was like, oh, it was like an omen to me. But it's about cognitive behavioral therapy. I'll give you like a 10-second overview real quick.
Thanks.
And what you get out of it is it teaches you, it's like taking a psychology class, but instead of studying how the field of psychology, how people analyze other people, it's studying how you can help yourself. It's like
self-help.
It's like the instruction manual to help yourself, rather than studying the field where they help other people.
Sounds exactly like what I need. Check it right now.
Yeah, trust me. This book will help you. It will not teach you how people help other people. It will tell you how to help yourself.
Yeah, Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns, right?
Help. I forgot what they call that.
Like a self-help book.
Self-help book, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I think it should be taught in grade school to everyone instead of teaching people like Psych 1 and Psych 2. Screw that. If we had this, if we taught this, we wouldn't have people shooting up schools.
Exactly. This is exactly the topic that we discussed today in Russia here, because we started having these things, which were ridiculous to me. Like, wow, children shooting at schools. Like, guys, you really should do something about it, because it's not healthy when children kill children. Like, this is a very bad sign. But in Russia, we didn't have that, and we didn't have that much bullying and those things. Like, when I watched movies, I felt it. It was surprising to me how people bully, like kids bully other kids, and everybody pretends it's something fine. Like, other kids see that, and teachers see that. Like, there's no way that in Russian school you wouldn't see somebody bullying somebody else, and you would try to do something about it. Or maybe
school.
Is it
but now
in Russia when it comes to the
I would say in Soviet times it
violence?
was, yes, because my generation, we still caught the last end of Soviet schools, and it was fine. Our teachers were very important, like a very important piece and part of our uprising. They would teach us life, and they were like not only teaching us the subject, but also like, you know, teaching us how to be good people and to live life.
You must have had some good teachers.
Yeah, I have to say that yes, all my teachers were amazing, and my chemistry teacher, like mathematical teacher, like all of them, they were very interesting people in the first place, and they were explaining things, sharing their
Yeah, there's a lot of good teachers all around the world.
You know what? Another thing that I want to mention, I think this is very detrimental, that just the fact that in Russian schools, from the first class till the last class, you study with the same group of people. It's just 20 people, and you spend your whole school with these guys. Whereas in America and other educational systems, you switch the classes, and you constantly have different people. You don't have, and you have a lot of connections, but not very good quality connections, because you change the classes all the time, and you could be like, you know, so I think that's very important. You don't have real friendship. And in Russia, people actually think that Americans, they're very superficial, and they don't, you know, they're not sincere. I think that's part of the stereotype, probably. That's because at schools, you don't have that important time when you form as a human being, and where you have these valuable friendship relationships. Because you have such a rotation of people you see. I think that's one point that could be very important in changing to healthier society. Having people you have to be with, and you have to, you know, find common tongue with them, and be friends with them, and spend more time with them. Because we mentioned today that you need to be patient and give an opportunity to people to open up and, you know, show their real self. And I think if you think about it, it's very important to keep kids together and in a certain controlled group of people, so that way you can, you know, have grow like over the years together, and you know, reveal different personality traits to the same group of people.
Can you let them know about our do an outro and move into because we're after the time.
Oh yeah, like after party. Yeah, it's official after party. Actually, I relaxed. That's why there are 7 hand raises, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna ignore that. I just gave megaphones to everybody and hope that you'll find comfort. Alex, right? Oh, hold on a second. Oh, I don't see you.
And I'll fix everything.
Oh, there you go. You have a microphone.
But if you put the wrong person in charge, then it could be a disaster.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I was lucky, I would say, that not all the Russian students, I think, had that good experience, but it's not as severe in those as is in those movies that I see. You know, different groups at school, some sports guys and cheerleaders, and like, what the hell is going on there? Like, you should be equal at school. Like, this is. Oh, let me give you.
So obvious to me, but I have a very unique perspective.
Alex.
Is that not due to the fact that some students might be scared to, like, you know, speak up for themselves a little bit, considering the homophobia there, like, and like many sort of, like, you know, the society having sort of scared to express itself in a certain way?
That's another negative part of it. Yes, we have a lot of that. People don't speak for themselves. A lot of people are in a victimized position. They think that they have no responsibility and control over life. That's another part of it. But yeah, but shooting at schools, oh my God, that's crazy. That's just think about it. It's such a weird phenomenon. Children killing other children, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's a gun issue more than anything. Like, I don't think society differs too much between America and the UK.
Yep.
But the first time there was a shooting in a UK school, we banned all guns.
You don't. I mean, banning guns is not the answer, though. I've been a gun owner for a long time.
But this is what happens every time somebody says this.
Is to have to use it.
Do you mind if I mute you?
But the point is, on the same day...
You can mute me. I just want to say it would be my worst nightmare is to have to use it against someone.
They stabbed the same number of people, but nobody died.
People should be taught.
That's the point. The same thing happened in Australia. Like, Australia did the exact same thing. They banned all fucking guns as soon as there was a school shooting, and there's no school shooting since. No, like everybody always says, oh, it's not gonna help you buying guns, but it does, because like, it's clear that it does. Like,
I don't think it's possible to ban guns in America. It's too late.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Too late.
It's too in depth in the society.
Yeah, it just needs some more control over selling these guns and stuff, because there should not be nobody. There should be some more control over these guns
in different parts of the world.
It should be nobody owning the AR-15. They're not even in the military. People end up like killing their own self or killing somebody next door because they didn't know the use safety measures and protocol to clean their gun. They should know before cleaning the gun, you take out the magazine, you take out the bullet out the compartment of whatever of the gun. Make sure it doesn't have a bullet in it before cleaning, because you end up hurting somebody or hurt yourself. And people just untrained, like you ain't supposed to be walking around something like that. It's not like we're living in an apocalypse. Well, not yet.
I believe more people kill themselves with guns in America than they kill other people.
People kill people.
Exactly.
Guns kill. People use guns to kill people, but people also use all kinds of stuff to kill people. You know, if I were to kill somebody, I could kill them with a butter knife.
Gun. You know, with a repeating gun, you lose people. With a knife, you have difficulty killing anybody, to be honest.
Also, I've been really depressed in my life. Like before I found meditation and the Taoism
would you
and stuff,
ban martial arts because it makes it easier for them to overpower and kill someone?
It's also easier to kill yourself.
You cannot kill a mass of people using martial arts, but you can with a submachine gun. You cannot kill a mass of people. Only one. No, you can't.
Yeah.
If everyone else didn't know martial arts and you were very good at martial arts, you could kill everyone in the room with a butter knife.
No, you
can't. Yes, you can.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yes, guns also give a lot of.
You can with a submachine gun, repeated submachine gun. I could take you all down now.
What if you're a chemist?
See, with the thing was,
you could poison a whole group of people.
Yeah, but people don't take chemistry work home, do they?
Man.
You say ban chemists, but it's not like you go, well, I'm a chemist, I'm going to take these test tubes home and sort of mix them up and see what happens. Whereas if you have a gun in your house, the chance of you being shot by it is going to be way more than if you don't have a gun in your house, isn't it?
A mass of people with chemistry.
They tried that.
But that's intention.
In Japan, actually.
That's intention, but I mean that doesn't happen because most people don't have the ability to get their hands on a lot of chemicals, or in fact don't want to. Whereas I mean, the amount of people that have guns is completely different.
Yeah.
It's not completely different. You have the will.
But if you don't know how to use it yet.
Yes, it does sound like after party. Everybody's just screaming.
You don't have to be smart.
You don't need will to kill people.
Come on, let's take it back to something positive, guys. there's too much violence in the world, and I suffer from these negative news all the time, because the pandemic really shifted the world towards negative news, and it really bothers me personally, because I don't travel, I don't see other people. Every time I think about traveling, I'm like, oh, I have to pass these tests, and vaccinations don't work in the same country. Russian doesn't let me out if I go, the Europe doesn't let me in with those visa stuff, and like the Pfizer, and we don't have Pfizer because the Sputnik 5, they want to have that only in Russia, and it's depressing. Thanks to Outspace that I found you guys, and let's discuss something amazing, like something about the future.
I'll never get the vaccination.
Why not? 700,000 people are dead in America due to COVID, and the vaccine, maybe a handful. 700,000 people are dead in America. That's long COVID.
You know what my rebuttal is?
You saying?
The same amount of people that die from COVID-19 every year die from tuberculosis, and that's been around for a long time.
No, not in the United States they don't. The cure for tuberculosis is for family. No way, man.
No, it is true.
The cure for tuberculosis. I'm sorry.
Not because not in countries where they can at least afford to give them the right vaccines for that. Tuberculosis.
Many people, just as many people
that's
every
why.
year.
But surely you get your children vaccinated. Like all this rubbish about they're putting. And I'm not trying to be negative, but all this rubbish about they're putting magnets in the vaccine, they're putting this in the vaccine, they're chipping us. Don't you think the amount of vaccines you have to give your children, they've had ample opportunity to do that already if they wanted to.
Why don't you want
to
take the vaccine, Rahman? Why?
People are ridiculous because all the stuff that's on my part, we still eat it, we drink it, and we take it.
In the group. Not too young, not too old, and if you get it while your immune system is healthy enough, there's a good chance that your body will develop stronger antibodies than with the vaccine.
Yo, just looked up TV.
What if you have an underlying?
He was in the Army Engineer Corps, and he was in charge of a whole battalion, and they got the Delta variant, and they survived, and they're probably better off than anyone else that's got the vaccine because they have natural immunity built up.
There's no evidence for that. There's no evidence for that. You're
better
off naturally.
Still wanted them to get the vaccine.
You want to know?
Still wanted them to get
it. The experimental vaccine that they've never used on a population before.
Thanks to Mendes.
But they tested the Pfizer vaccine was tested on 44,000
they did.
people.
There's a presidential
with no adverse effects.
that
44,000. Yeah, but they still tested it.
Skip the testing.
Oh, she's gone. Okay. Oh, there she is.
No, they didn't. They tested on 44,000 people.
Sorry.
Entertaining
myself.
Look it up, dude.
Honestly, I'm gonna share my own opinion about it. I think that vaccination, it makes sense what you're saying, but the problem is that you don't know how exactly your body is going to take that. We've been sick in summer with my husband, and I was like, I thought the same way. I'm like young, I'm not.
Go, but I'll be back.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think I started losing my hair like 3 months after that, and COVID was very light variant when I was sick, and we didn't have like much trouble. But I feel that my body really has problems right now. Like I start having like health problems more often. I'm not sure if it's COVID or maybe psychological problems or maybe stress because of the my. But my mother-in-law, she actually died of COVID because she didn't believe in vaccinations and everything, but her body didn't take it very well, and that's why she like rapidly started feeling worse, and she died.
But
and my mother got vaccination, and she's fine.
Man.
No, just personal.
What I was trying to say is that some people seem like they have no problems at all, no underlying, symptoms and stuff. But then in reality, there's a lot of people walking around with underlying symptoms and not knowing what COVID could do and what could make it boost whatever's wrong with you, make it worse.
Exactly.
And that's the
depression.
Some people walk around, I don't get it. I don't got,
A lot of people developed panic attacks and depression, and like it kind of affects your like health very in subtle ways, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's a thing called long COVID, which is sort of like fatigue, etc., over a long period of time after having the infection.
Yeah, it feels like that's what I.
That's a fucking nightmare.
Yep.
And I'll have another one.
Asthma.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you have the vaccine, you may still get COVID, but the chance of you getting hospitalised with COVID is very slim. So I mean, you know,
very little.
In dying, exactly, or passing it on. You're less likely to pass it on if you've got if you've been vaccinated. So I mean,
70% of people in hospital in the UK with COVID have not had the vaccine. I mean, there's your data. 70% of people in hospital with COVID have not had the vaccine. What more data do you want?
The unvaccinated, that's what they call them.
Yeah, they want to have like 99%. I don't know, people. It's another phenomenon, actually. I think that happens. This whole thing actually is an indicator. I think that people got access to information, and now I think that the reason for all these things happening is that it's so hard to find, to understand which information is trustworthy and which one is not. And a lot of people, and also think about
the problem. It's just as easy to put lies on the internet and I believe that I can take this horse tranquilizer, shove it up my bottom, and that will get rid of COVID forever. So I mean, you know, you can say anything.
Saying that,
Does it really work? Should I try?
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's another phenomenon like the social networks, because we
for animals.
Yeah,
like got worms or something. That's what it was really meant for.
Like, look at the
horses and stuff.
Think about the little.
The studies on ivermectin has shown that it doesn't work. The initial studies that show that it did work have proven to be fraudulent. It's all over the press in the UK. Fraudulent studies, ivermectin don't do it. It doesn't work, despite what Joe Rogan says.
Yeah, but there's one interesting.
I think all this stuff's been mandated anyway. Like all these vaccines, they was already mandated. It's that this one vaccine that now all of a sudden I don't trust it. And
what I find suspicious is that
like if you taking needles for other stuff, yeah, sure. You never know what that's doing to you. Like there's a lot of things out there that you take, you never know what's doing it, but you trust it because it does do something, but then you don't know it's doing something else. Like you could take a shot for to lose weight, but then it also do something else. Might have a benefit, might not have a benefit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
I think what the pharmaceutical company's done is absolutely amazing. They produced this cure, a treatment in record time, where in previous years it would have taken, it wouldn't be available. Go back to look at smallpox. Just look at smallpox, man.
It's very different. The amount of scientists that worked on this, and they were sharing their information as well a lot of the time. So I mean, it's very different than normal. You know, normally they're trying to, they like to keep everything to themselves because obviously they're selling it, and it's just you know whatever. I mean, I think the pharmaceutical companies the scientists did a great job. Scientists. I do think pharmaceutical companies.
I
some
think
of the reason we have such an opioid crisis.
Too.
You know, and that.
Well, that's true.
You know.
Without pharmaceutical companies, it's not going to be developed. You can have as much science as you want, but you've got to have research as you want, but you've got to have development. And it's the big pharma companies that have got the power and the money to develop it and manufacture it. You know, you can have brilliant research, but it doesn't get into
well,
use.
That's true.
Yeah, but I was thinking that like those scientists actually probably use other viruses that has a common you know, with this virus, and they probably create a new formula to fight off this virus.
They used something out of the flu for it. They did, didn't they? I thought they did.
Yeah, a
lot of
stuff.
They were using the same mechanisms anyway.
Yeah, DNA technologies, I think, also
did a lot
help.
of researches and all that stuff.
Yeah, some of the vaccines they're based on DNA technology that mRNA, I think, vaccines.
mRNA.
Yeah, these technologies are pretty cool.
There's a lot of testing.
Yeah. But still, like this is one of
test it, you know.
this is one of the reasons why
they're not just. I mean, if they weren't testing it, everybody would be able to get it babies up, you know. But it's all being tested at different sort of. You have to do that, don't you?
You think some of these viruses are coming from
44,000 people?
Like, that was probably frozen for years, and then is now melting and coming out. You think all these viruses
the tundra,
coming from
the frozen, the tundra,
Yeah.
that's what they're saying, isn't it? The
yeah,
virus.
that's a scary thing to think
The
about.
climate
because
change.
They do that all the time, I
See,
believe.
now they're saying that, I mean, Wuhan came out of the Wuhan lab. The Wuhan lab, they were the only people in the world studying coronavirus. They're in Wuhan. And the people they sent in the States, they sent people over to go and investigate to check it wasn't that lab.
Yeah, I
but
think
what
they
they
were
didn't
careless
disclose
with
is
it.
one of the guys who
With
went
any
over
virus
actually
or
had
any
money
biological
in that
thing
lab.
They had. They can only screw their own self. Yeah. And studying
Yeah, but they're
viruses
saying now
is
they think it was
really
released
crazy, like-
accidentally. Well, they don't know accident, but they think
Quite
it was
possibly,
definitely released
yeah,
from this
maybe.
lab because,
Of course,
I mean, you
It was
know,
probably
I
an
mean, the guy
accident.
investigating
Probably
actually
was
had
an
SARS
accident
in
and
the
he
lab,
messed
so.
up.
The SARS in
It was messed up,
2008 also came out of China, didn't it? I mean, what was that? SARS 1, I don't know what it was called, but yeah, that came out of China.
In China, but where's they at to be even catching these viruses like they're doing?
Oh, there's
or
always
whatever
labs
they
all
doing
over
with
the
them.
world. There's labs all over the world with different.
Yeah,
they
I
have
guess so.
smallpox still. They have a lot of different. You know, they keep them, don't they? All of these
They
different
do.
diseases that have been eradicated or whatever, or viruses and that, but they always keep a thing of them.
Oh man.
You know, I don't
Yeah.
think. I mean,
Especially that
it
thing I
got
was talking
released. I
about.
do really think it got released, but I wouldn't say it's not China's fault as such. It's just I think
Yeah.
because straight after all of this happened, that lab put a whole new ventilation system. It cost them like millions, and also what else did they do? All the data and that had gone missing. Apparently, it all went down. And all went missing. so it's a bit
And of course,
weird, you know.
the Chinese chap that
From my
that
point of
first
view,
exposed it, the doctor that exposed it, he got imprisoned and then died,
Yeah,
like
he
that.
did,
They
died,
stopped
yeah,
him from
yeah.
spreading the information around, and the guy died.
Wow. Because
And,
they didn't want
yeah.
to get out, have a bad press. Sounds like somewhere in America.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're
They will
aware of
shut you
that.
down.
You know that most of the population in China now believes that because of the propaganda by the CCP, the Communist Party of China,
Mhm.
Yeah.
An American
convinced the
virus.
populace that it's from America, and that they
It's a
released
Trump
in
virus.
Wuhan.
Trump did it.
Oh, Trump.
Oh man, I'm glad he
Everyone
gone.
has
Shit.
information.
I need to come back to be
Yeah.
It's so
president.
scary.
Many, yeah, I think all
Yeah, there's a
countries
lot of
have
monsters
this.
here in America.
Yeah, propaganda to a different extent. In America, it's just more subtle.
You can't
It's-
even talk. Yeah, you can't talk bad to nobody in America now. You'll
Mhm.
never know what's in their mindset.
Mhm.
They're ready to ban this and do that and shut you down if you say this. Like they slowly picking away out of democracy like crazy.
Yep.
You
Free-
know,
freedom
you
of
can't say the
speech.
wrong thing, you're
It's
getting
a
shut
bit of a
down.
mess.
Yeah.
Switch to communism. You will not have that.
Yes, Walk out to the camps. And the thing about China, I think what's going to bring them down is, they've banned gaming. Gaming can only be done by children for 3 hours
Yeah, they
a
was
week.
coming after my games, man. They better leave me alone. I
That's
love my
gonna bring
Call of
China
Duty. I
down.
like my
English
Valorant
lessons
game,
as well.
but now I'm
Didn't they just
outside.
stop their English, which is like ridiculous because China they deal with so many other countries, usually British-speaking
Yeah.
countries or whatever, like English-speaking
All
countries.
the
But why would
American
you
natives
want your children to be less
are leaving.
educated? It makes no sense. I think it's so
It's
they
a
can keep their
control
people
factor.
there.
You
Yeah.
the Muslims
It's the
in
control factor.
concentration camps doesn't help much either.
That's what they trying to do here in America, control what people learn and stuff. They don't want to let nobody know the real history of America. Like if somebody come along and they teach the wrong thing, all of a sudden that person's in like the enemy of the country or something. Like automatic, get
China,
him
it's
fired,
like
get him. Yeah.
Yeah.
It don't make no sense to,
China-
try to
China's
hide
always
because they can find it anywhere.
Huh?
Kids don't have to learn all that stuff in school, but what they putting out there now is all lies, and they trying to cover things up and all this other. Blame this group for something that they didn't do yet.
I think they do that in all
Yeah.
countries.
So bad.
Yeah.
In Russia, they
Yeah,
say
well,
history is written by
The
historians.
United States is starting. Yeah, United States is turning it into that. Like they trying to be like the handmaiden and stuff. And
Mhm.
it's getting really out of hand.
Oh, The Handmaids. Yeah, that's my son. He works on that show. I started watching it, and it just I thought this could easily happen, and then I stopped watching it because I thought, oh no, it's just you
Black
you get
Mirror?
the wrong person in, like Trump, for instance. What's that?
No. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
What did you say?
Continue. Sorry, I skipped part of it, and I thought you were talking about the Black Mirror.
No, talking about Handmaid's Tale.
Mm-hmm.
Handmaid's Tale. That's what I was meant.
Sure. Continue.
There was a lot of TV shows that depicted, like men was in charge of everything. I was watching this episode of Charms, where they went back into time, but then time was changed, and they couldn't do magic, and they couldn't do certain things. I don't know, but if they couldn't dress normal. If they was caught, they was considered a witch if they was caught, doing that. And then all the people that knew magic and all that stuff was living underground, and the other people just living on top, like obeying the laws and stuff like that. It was really like crazy.
1984.
I couldn't even imagine the world.
The book that I recommended, it has pretty much that, I think, gloomy picture.
I was listening to a talk by Huxley, Aldous Huxley, on YouTube, a radio interview. An interview. Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Curious.
I hate when history repeats itself.
He probably was alive.
You said something which I missed.
Komitsu, yeah. You were saying something.
Yeah, I'm a little bit paranoid.
Well, I'm off. It was lovely chatting to everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Obviously, you're from the UK.
Thanks for setting up.
Yeah, let me add you as a friend. So, if I'm online. Yep.
I'm a little paranoid because I got too many gadgets in my house. I don't know if that little thing over there listens to everything I said.
Oh, you
I
should
didn't
be.
say anything.
You should be.
That's called a wife.
Yes, she's going
I think everything here could tap me and shit if they wanted to.
So, Komitsu, people asked and interrupted.
Last thing I was thinking about was that China is closing down globally. It used to be
globally.
Yeah, they are clamping down on the dollar billionaires.
Social media
disappearing. They don't want the same situation that happened with Trump, where Trump got banned in America, basically, Twitter.
Oh wow! See, that's a problem now, though. That's a real problem. Even when you order and stuff,
they cannot let the capitalists get ahead. Right? Social platforms. Jack Ma disappeared. He appeared in one short video from a record a year later. And if you get too rich in China now, it's over.
Join the Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps. Because they've got a million of them. Re-education camp. Sorry.
I just saw a podcast on that. How they are harvesting.
Oh
organs,
gosh.
Right. You can go to a hospital in one of the major cities, like an American or European. And if you want a new kidney, you can. You have the bigger camps. Everyone there has blood samples. And if you're a match, they just take him and they harvest everything. And even if they don't need half the things.
Yeah. And the Uyghur Muslims. Yeah. But we had a Chinese guy, didn't we? Suddenly appear.
Yeah, that was creepy.
He goes, "How can you believe that Adolf Hitler goes to heaven?" I said, "Yeah, you're right, man. But what are you doing with 1 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps?" He sort of disappeared then, didn't he? Something like that.
Maybe the Great Chinese Firewall took him down.
I'm not sure he broke it, but.
Yep. VPNs.
The Chinese firewall is great, but it's slow. Only if you get big, you get deleted.
Yeah, in Soviet Russia, actually, I remember these stories from my parents and grandparents that My father used to make relatively a lot of money because he was really active and trying to make money at the factory where he used to work and like to sell some things. And it was like the time where they would have a special organ, like NKVD or something like that. It was like a body of the government.
I'll see y'all later.
Yeah, that if you have too much money and you start buying things, they would come to you and ask you like, where did you get these money? And you would have to report for that. And if you had too much money that you couldn't explain for, you could be taken to jail. Just because it was like equality, and like that's why if you stick out too much, that's why my dad actually had at one point he actually had to save the money, and you couldn't take it to the bank or exchange the dollars or anything because it was registered as well, so you couldn't have like currency. And he actually had to dig. I think he had to bury some of the money. There are like some.
Why didn't you buy Bitcoin?
Yeah. It was 1980 something. I don't know, maybe 82. Who knows?
I know.
I think that's the point. That's the moment where they realized that dollars actually have metals in them, because when they dig them out of the like underground, they were like a little bit stained. So. Yeah. Thanks for coming, guys.
It does look like China is set to become the dominant power, to be honest, dominant economic power, so they say.
It makes sense because they have a lot of people, they pay a lot of attention to technologies, they produce basically everything we own in the world. And it makes a lot of sense. And they have the military stuff. They have connections with Russia that loses the power. And of course, Russia probably has a lot of connections with it. Like almost everybody now thinks that Russia actually sells the taiga to China, so that way China uses the resources like the wood from Russian resources, because the government of Russia is actually so corrupt, I think, that they basically sell their and a lot of other people.
There's a thing about that on the BBC Panorama is called Pandora Papers. How the Russians are bribing our politicians. Pandora Papers.
It's I think it's happening
in my republic right now.
It's happening all over the world.
I think the Saudis. Saudis have just bought the Newcastle football team. People saying, well, what about Jamal Khashoggi? The guy that got his head chopped off by the Saudis. Money isn't everything.
It is, but different scales. You could think about the future of the country, but you could be a terrible person. Or maybe you could be an amazing family guy who brings a lot of money to his household, but he could be a terrible person who bribes and takes bribes from other people. Oh my God, there were like so many ridiculous cases where a lot of money. Have you seen the new TV show, like the Korean one from Netflix, the game, something Calamari?
Squid Game.
What game?
Squid Game.
Oh yeah, Squid Game. Yes, I actually am always curious about the money, and I started counting the currencies because they keep mentioning the money, like, oh, can you give me 10,000 won and something. I'm not sure about the English translation, but they use the actual currency of Southern Korea there. And I always used to, I started Googling what's the exchange rate, and I started counting the numbers. Like he said, oh, give me this. And I counted that in Russian rubles, so that way I understand what's the amount of money. And actually the amount of money that was the price for the final death, there were like around 400 something people, and they all died for this one amount of money. I have to tell you, at least 2 news within last 2 years, 3 years, there were at least 2 times when guys were caught for having 3 times more money inside their house, bribing. There was one judge, he actually had 9 billion rubles, which is 3 times more than that amount in that TV show. And another guy was caught just recently. He worked in some road regulation company, and he actually had a golden toilet. That was he was ridiculously rich, ridiculously.
golden toilet.
Oh yes, and that drives me crazy. Like these amounts of money are just so ridiculous. Like, and they steal it, and you realize how much they steal from. Like they suck the resources from the whole country actually to have so much money inside their house. The guy.
Talking about,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Talking about Netflix, there's a good program about the financial crisis of 2008. I can't remember what it's called, but I watched it, and it was basically about all the American people in charge of the Treasury and how they were
printing money basically
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of shit is going on, but hopefully internet. I think internet is a test for humankind, because if we're stupid enough to, just being lured into these, fun entertainment things and, look for and have these psychological disease, because sooner or later you're going to have psychological diseases, because it's very unnatural for our, I think, wiring of our brain and all of things, our physiology, to have so much context, to have so many people around you, to have like this false picture on the internet. Everybody tells me that my Instagram looks amazing, and it's like they think that I have an amazing life, and where I'm like almost in depression for 3 years. It's very tricky. Like it makes you feel that everybody's successful and you're a joke, and it's very unhealthy. And like if we pass this test, we can use these technologies for the best, like for, solving our problems and really shifting all the power that we have towards those things that are really important. So yeah, it's a test.
But isn't it amazing what we're doing at the moment? We're talking across the world. I'm sorry, where were you from, Komutsu? Country?
Czech Republic.
Yeah, Czech Republic, yes.
Czech Republic, Russia, England. And we all crawl across the world exchanging ideas.
Yes, it is amazing.
Except the Chinese aren't here. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that we're the minority so far. So I'm optimistic nihilism.
I mean, here's a shocking figure. 50% of people have below average intelligence.
Well, I would say yesterday we had this funny joke. One of my students, she told me that 90% of people imitate evolution. that was really, or simulate evolution. That was some funny phrase. Yeah, which is pretty much true. I think the majority of people are not very smart. Yeah, I couldn't tell what has changed. The video is over.
Yeah. There's a very good book about genetic engineering, gene editing, what I thought you might be interested in, Azzy. I sent you the details. Yeah, I'm reading it at the moment. I was quite surprised, about CRISPR-Cas9 and all that stuff.
Yeah, I know something about it, but I find it amazing. This is freaking miracle. Like you can just have one syringe shot in a child, and she or she is going to be cured. I'm like, this is. Tell those religious people that we do have miracles already. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. I'll send you the details of it. I'll send you an email with the details of it. It's a good book. And it's about how it developed, the story behind it, this with people and how it came about.
Yeah, it was a coincidence. Like those bacterias, like a farmer guy, like a yogurt company. Yeah, I heard some of it.
Yeah, and all that, yeah. They found those people with this very rare disease, one person didn't suffer from it, and they've had some cells did have it, some cells didn't have it. So basically, the cells had just destroyed their genetic programming, reassembled themselves. It's like having a computer program with a bug in it, destroys itself and reassembles itself and works. It was just coincidence. They looked at that and, that's interesting. I'll send you the details of the book. It's quite interesting.
Yes, send it my way. Yeah. Oh my God, that list of
the last video about DNA that blew my mind was like a 3D rendering of how DNA is actually decoded, like split apart, read, and copied, and it was all in 3D, and it looked like you have like a double helix, right?
Yep.
And it gets cut in half by this like a blob of a protein.
Yeah, Cas9.
In a sphere. And it just splits it in half, and one of the health is read in sequence and copied, and the other health is actually read in the reverse order, so it has to like remember and like put it aside and read later. And it was crazy how like it looked like little robots.
Sticking bits together, yeah. Amazing, isn't it? I mean, computer programs, nothing compared with the programming of human beings. Nothing.
Just the DNA, not only human beings. Did you know that actually potatoes have more chromosomes that we do have?
Yeah.
Is it ridiculous? They have 52, we have 48.
And a banana or something like that, or a mosquito has loads more. So it's nothing down to the number of genes, it's down to the number of what they do. Yeah,
I can share one of my spiritual revelations that I had. I think all creatures that have DNA is a good example, that you can have the memory of all the generations before you, like from that very beginning, like of the ancestry that you used to have, like those, very, very far going. And if you expand that actually to the moment where you could basically remember not only the DNA of your organic the ancestors, but I think ancestors, actually this word makes you think about your grandparents and grandparents, but I would say precursors, like all animals that came before you and all the creatures, all the bacteria and all organic life, and expand that even more to non-organic life. That would be amazing, like if you could remember all those things at once. That would be devastating.
Remember when I was a rock.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That is amazing, isn't it?
IT, and for me it's mind-blowing that you can fit genetic information of a human on a DVD. How? Because what compression algorithm is there? Because we are having a hard time fitting a game on a DVD.
Yeah, I think
on that level, like how can you encode this?
A DVD even is more understandable than our bodies. Our bodies are amazing, actually, at storing information and using that maths and spatial things, like to always, when you think about these DNA, that actually every cell has 22,000 DNA sequence somethings, and if you unwrap them, like they're going to take like few kilometers or like around the equator. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, this is fucking magic.
There's epigenetics, as I mentioned before, the gene expression. You got the genes, they're not always expressed, and it depends on the effect of the environment, blah, blah, blah. As I mentioned before, very good talk on epigenetics is the Royal Institute, Nessa Carey. She actually used sweets to explain it, but it's a very good talk on epigenetics. And you mentioned how it can be inherited down the generations. Dutch hunger winter and things like that. It's worth looking at. Royal Institute, RI, epigenetics, Nessa Carey.
Yeah, I think there's another lecture by Robert Sapolsky on YouTube as well about epigenetics. That's where I heard about about this the Dutch hunger and stuff. It's very curious. Okay.
And bizarrely, she mentions they subjected a mouse to trauma connected to a certain smell, and then apparently
cherry.
The offspring of this mice, when subjected to the certain smell, experienced trauma. Maybe, that's interesting.
Yeah, they were subjected to some. That was some substance that smells like cherry, but it's toxic or something like that. Oh no, it's not toxic. I think they were combining it with electric shocks or something like that.
That's it. Yeah. Then the offspring exposed to cherry had the experiences of it's been exposed to electric shock. Maybe some evidence of that, but that's quite bizarre.
It is, but still, this is a good key, I think, because I heard the fact that actually your DNA doesn't change. It's not affected by your lifestyle. Nobody cares. You're just a carrier of the unchanged information that you give to your children. But epigenetics actually explains a lot of things, how you can accumulate and change the expression of those things.
Mm-hmm. Because when I was at university, they had no idea. All cells in the body have the same genes.
Yep.
But a toe cell isn't the brain cell, but it's got the same genes. So what's the difference? The
part that is activated.
Epigenetics. My toe isn't my tongue, but it's got the same genes in it.
There's something interesting. Yeah, there's something very interesting about that stuff, because I think there's one type of, I don't remember where exactly, but there was like a specific type of things that actually knows where in space parts of your body should be. And somehow it actually regulates that process where in your embryo you actually start dividing into different groups of cells. Like you have liver cells and kidney cells. Really recommend that course by Robert Sapolsky. He's amazing. He's just an interesting lecturer.
Yeah. Didn't know he did one on epigenetics. I'll look at that, but yeah, he is. He does some brilliant. He's Stanford, isn't he?
Stanford University, 2010.
I'll look at that in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Great.
Yeah, it's in Russian for some reason.
Sapolsky.
Yeah.
Oh no, I can't do it in Russian. That's no good.
No, it is in English. It just shows me the names in Russian.
Which one is epigenetics? Behavior. Oh, behavior and okay. Sapolsky, behavior and epigenetics. I saw it.
If you just take the Robert Sapolsky human behavior blah blah blah, it's gonna have like 27 videos in the collection, and that's where you can find genetics,
I've listened to most
behavioral.
of those, but I didn't know epigenetics. No, that's good. Yeah, excellent.
So it has 4 serious lectures on behavioral genetics. So it's gonna have epigenetics somewhere there. I think the second one.
Oh yes. Epigenetics.
Oh, molecular genetics and then behavioral genetics. So actually these are 2 different bundles.
I did see epigenetics up a minute ago. I saw it, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I'll look at it, yeah.
I love the way he reads the lectures. I should go back and listen to this whole thing once again.
I think I'll listen to this one. You know, he had the program himself.
Yeah, I think this is the one, because he talks about these, transcription factors and these illustrations. That you have the same bunch of DNA, but depending on the transcription factor and like that keyhole and key that activates that kind of like different combinations of DNA pieces.
Yep. Key, Okay.
I love the way he explains stuff.
All right.
I almost feel as smart as he as other people. I'm like, oh, I understand this stuff. It means I'm smart enough. Yeah, I think this is it. Like,
that's it. Must be.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually made the joke that in previous waves of students, they were interested in sex behavior, whereas like over time, they started asking more about depression. Oh, when are we going to have a depression lectures? Because it becomes more and more important. And it was 2010, and he actually mentioned that by 2020 or something, like the depression is going to be like major depressive disorder is going to be it's going to be one of the main disabling factors, more than diabetes is going to beat diabetes.
He was right, I think.
That's what happens, I think, over time.
The Health Organization predicted a few years' time, and it's hit us already.
Yep.
That's because of Altspace.
Not particularly. I think the internet in general, social networks. Isn't it an interesting phenomenon as well?
If it's more awareness of it, I mean, in the 1940s, they didn't have all this collection of data, did they? So,
and also people were too busy. They didn't report about depression, and I think Today in Russia, I think, yeah, a lot of people, they say I'm too busy to be depressed. I have 3 children. I have, like, my husband is a broke person. Like, I have to work and wash the dishes and do stuff and use coal to have fire for my children. So no time to be depressed or underdiagnosed. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll see you next Saturday or maybe earlier if I'm ever online.
Yeah.
Message me.
I'll send you that reference.
Nice talk.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for
Bye,
coming.
everybody. Nice talking to you. Great
Bye.
talk.
Yeah.
Bye.
Likewise.
Polsky,
Bye-bye.
epigenetic. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Okay.